Chairman Tom Wheeler testifying on Capitol Hill about net neutrality. I don't know if you heard about it, but if you use the internet, and that's virtually all of us, you're going to be affected. Should the government get involved, though, because they usually just slow everything down. Joining us this morning with how it could affect you, internet expert Dave Hatter. First of all, tell me, what is net neutrality?
Well, the basic concept is the premise that all content, data, whatever you want to call it, going over the internet is treated equally.
Okay.
If you want to pay more or whatever, you're not impacted by people who can't afford to pay more. Everyone has equal access to the internet is the basic fundamental concept, and that's the way it's always been.
That's the way it's now, correct?
It's more or less, but
right.
Things have changed somewhat, and that's what's prompted this whole debate, and the government's tried to get involved, and they've had a couple of proposals that have been shot down. But essentially, like one of the Netflix, right? Netflix has a lot of money. They're a big company.
Right.
They had subscribers who would complain about the speed, right? So they struck a deal with some of the bigger internet service providers like Verizon and Comcast, and basically they pay more so their content gets through faster, and thus that fixes
giving them
the problem.
An advantage.
Well, that's exactly right. And you know, some of the arguments against this, because I personally can see both sides of this thing. You know, if you have the resources to pay more and you want access to faster stuff, what's the problem with that? But the flip side is, like, you know, someone like Google, of course, they can afford to pay. If there's somebody working in their garage right now,
right,
and they've got some great idea, but it takes really high-speed internet access, they're not going to be able to get to that because they can't afford it.
The thing is in an age where so many companies started over the internet, everybody had equal access, it would be unfair and it would be harder for a startup company to happen, correct?
That's my take on it. And there's another second part of it where we'd almost hit like a tiered internet. And
right.
you know, if you couldn't pay, you might not be able to get into this internet. So you could almost have like a de facto censorship. Well, you know, you can't get to this library. You can't use this site because you can't get into that channel. So I mean, there's all kinds of interesting angles to this thing, but in general, I think it should just be left the way it is.
Well, what about this? What about internet service providers who can say, I'm going to slow everything down for everyone?
Well,
and until you pay more, you're going to have slow internet.
That's exactly right. Or the possibility that, okay, you know, a lot of people play games over the internet. That creates a lot of traffic. You know, if you sit in the house and only check your email once in a while, but you got a whole neighborhood full of kids playing games all the time, you know, that's going to impact your ability to access the internet. So they could say, well, if you want to play games over the internet, it's going to cost you more. So see, I kind of get that.
Sure.
But at the same time, you know, overall, it's probably a bad thing. They ought to leave it be. Just let people, you know, let people have equal access to everything.
But the flip side of that is, though, there was a time when gas was plentiful and it wasn't regulated by the government. Today, gas is regulated by the government. We're all still paying through the nose, but it is regulated by the government.
Exactly. And, you know, I do feel pretty strongly that the more regulation they try to put around this, unfortunately, it probably will impact innovation, because usually when the government gets involved in this stuff, it just makes everything slow down, the wheels grind much slower. So, you know, again, it's a complicated issue, but at the bottom line, at the end of the day, really, everyone should just have equal access to this.
Because the thing about the internet is that it's very reactive. I mean, it responds quickly to like public demand or what the people want. You get the government involved, it might slow all that down. It might stop innovation.
You can, I would say almost guarantee that, Rob. That would be my take on it. And, you know, it has almost become like a utility. You know, people not only expect it, but it's a great service to everybody because everyone has equal access to information.
It does not apply to phones, though.
It does not.
It does not. They can slow down your phone.
Because the phone carriers are a different thing. Although all of that has blended together. You know, when you get into voice over IP, now again, you're into an area, well, your phone calls are going over the internet. This stuff impacts so many things, and they really should just leave it alone.
Yeah, I agree.
Leave it alone.
Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Dave Hatter, thank you very much, man.
Thank you, Rob.
All right, we have much more straight ahead on the FOX19 Morning News. We have the very latest on a missing UC student. He has not been seen since 2 o'clock Sunday morning.